Hey guys, Dr. St. Jean here at Unity Chiropractic Center in Lincoln Park, Chicago. Today's talk is video 5, and it's our final video in the Eliminating Carpal Tunnel Naturally video series. I'm going to talk today about some basic nutritional tips that you can use and discuss certain supplements that you might want to consider when it comes to relieving your carpal tunnel syndrome. Supplements and carpal tunnel nutrition, it's things that you might not have heard of. But after you're done watching this, or maybe even before, you might want to click the link below to sign up for the full video series if you haven't already, because this is the last video, right? So it'd be important to watch the other ones first. I want to first point out that treating carpal tunnel via nutrition and nutrient replacement is not some new novel concept or idea. This is something that's been around for a while. It's not just talked about really that much because in the eyes of certain industries that we won't discuss or say that play major roles in medicine, there's no real money in providing patients with nutrients, right? The money is in drugs and surgery. So that's why you don't really hear about this kind of information at halftime, let's say, on the Super Bowl. But I'll just kind of put that out there before I start. This maybe why you haven't really heard of any of this stuff. But one thing you probably have heard of is the anti-inflammatory diet. If you have carpal tunnel syndrome, this, generally speaking, is a really good guideline to follow. It's a good place to start. The key word there is general. Specifics can only come from a proper evaluation. There's no way to be specific without seeing you. But as a general rule of thumb, make sure you're eating foods that deflame you, right? Ones that calm down the inflammatory process. So important. Since carpal tunnel is due to nerve compression via pressure buildup in the carpal tunnel, anything that increases systemic inflammation, either indirectly or directly, is going to be a problem or a factor that needs to be considered. So food is, of course, therefore a major area to consider in this regard. So anti-inflammatory nutrition is so important. But the concept, the anti-inflammatory concept, is centered around eating fresh, organic foods with a focus on healthy fruits and vegetables, healthy fats, healthy proteins. And I really always tell my patient a good way to think about this type of food plan, or any food plan for that matter, is if you can't hunt it, you can't fish it, or you can't pick it, you probably don't want to put it in your mouth. And there's exceptions, of course, to this concept, but it's a good way to remember what foods you should be primarily eating in your diet from day to day, if you stick to that general rule of thumb. The anti-inflammatory diet also focuses on eliminating your consumption of processed foods and fast foods and junk foods. So the elimination of processed sugar, hydrogenated oils, gluten, dairy, all that stuff is going to be really, really important in terms of this dietary regimen. So in addition to the deflaming nutrition concept, there are a few supplements that have been actually shown to be clinically useful in the treatment of carpal tunnel syndrome, which is very interesting. There was this brilliant surgeon named Dr. John Ellis, and he wrote a ton of research, really extensive information about how B6 was an extremely potent treatment option when it comes to carpal tunnel syndrome. This is not a new thing, right? I commonly, in patients who need it, recommend 50 milligrams of B6 1 to 3 times per day for about 2 to 3 months. That's usually how long it takes to replete the nutrients. But remember, all things are not made equal, especially supplements. So therefore, you're going to want to make sure that the B6 supplement that you're maybe taking is the more biological form, called pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Pyridoxal 5-phosphate. You're also going to want to make sure that you're deficient in this before you just start randomly chowing it down, right? I can't tell you how many clinicians hear about a few studies being published, let's say, showing evidence in this regard for B6 supplementation in patients with CTS, and they'll go into PubMed and they'll read the conclusion, the end part of the abstract, and say, hey, I'm just going to throw this B6 at all the patients that have carpal tunnel. But the reality is not every single patient with carpal tunnel should have B6 blindly thrown at them. We really got to be more objective and scientific about this stuff, right? Of course, most patients are going to benefit from this. The research shows that. But still, as a patient, just be careful with those all or none recommendations, right? That's a big red flag. But the reason why some might benefit from B6 supplementation while others don't is often related to the fact that different patient populations and different patients have different etiologies or hidden root causes of their carpal tunnel, which is again why identifying that root cause, what is causing your carpal tunnel syndrome, is really the most important part. If you remember anything from this series, remember that. But on the topic of B vitamins, a B12 supplement might also be beneficial, and it's shown to be somewhat promising due to B12's critical role in nerve function and red blood cell formation. So in general, if you know the pathology, then you understand why B12 there would be relevant. If it's been determined that B6 is beneficial for you and you're being supplemented, let's say your doc giving you B6, he's giving you the right form, biological form, but you're not seeing results, make sure your doc has ruled out zinc deficiency. That's really important. Zinc deficiency inhibits the conversion of B6 into its active form, and therefore the B6 supplement becomes useless until the underlying zinc deficiency is corrected. Another issue in regards to B6 supplementation not working too well is B6 supplementation, when it doesn't work, has been correlated with excessive exposure to plasticizers or phthalates. These chemicals create hidden zinc deficiencies, which, like I just told you, when you have a zinc deficiency, it impacts the viability of your B6 supplement. So plasticizers, keep that in mind. The other thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially when it comes to carpal tunnel, is heavy metals. This is a big one. Mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic, aluminum. These are all common metals that build up in our tissues pretty significantly. They disrupt the minerals required for proper enzymatic function and therefore can throw off B6 metabolism. So that's important to consider too, heavy metals. So the takeaway is, first, will you benefit from B6? Most likely yes. Second, if you're not responding to B6, consider zinc deficiency, plasticizers, or heavy metal toxicities. So that's just a nice general rule of thumb there. Another few supplements that are really worth mentioning are magnesium and natural anti-inflammatories. So natural anti-inflammatories are things like bromelain, turmeric, omega-3s, MSM, really great. Magnesium helps relax the blood vessels and the muscular tissues, thereby potentially relieving the pressure in the carpal tunnel, while natural anti-inflammatories help to reduce the inflammation, kind of similar to the anti-inflammatory diet guidelines, but they just give you that extra boost, right? So the last bit of clinical information, now I'm thinking about it, that I want to share with you on the topic of nutrients and nutrition and everything like that, and functional medicine in relation to carpal tunnel syndrome, is looking at GI function, gut function. So you can throw all these wonderful supplements and nutrients down the chute, as many as you want, but if you're not digesting and you're not absorbing properly, it's not going to be as effective as you may have originally intended. So GI imbalances, things like SIBO, SIFO, parasites, food sensitivities, leaky gut, etc., all these can disrupt nutrient metabolism, and therefore at certain times, depending on the patient, they should be considered. So there you go, some basic nutritional and supplement tips for carpal tunnel syndrome. Obviously, there's way more things to be specific about, but that requires an exam and an intake. Again, I'm going to say this one more time, if you haven't watched the beginning of the series, definitely watch it, because there's a host of more great information that's relevant to you. But if you're at this point kind of thinking, you know what, I'm ready to get treated, I want to get rid of my carpal tunnel, it's been bothering me for a while, and you want a one-on-one session with myself, feel free to click the link below. It'll take you right to our website with our scheduler, and I'll look forward to meeting you. I hope you found this video and the rest of the series useful and helpful. Be well, and see you soon. Bye-bye.